Young people are at risk of second impact. I'm a neurosurgeon. When we operate on young people that have been traumatized, whether it's a car accident or whatever, their brains are hyperdynamic. They're hyperemic. They're red. The vessels are dilated. Bam, bam, bam with every heartbeat. And it makes sense that you take that brain after a concussion while they're still symptomatic and you hit it again. It is not rocket science to figure out what happens to the child. And Zach Lystedt is the poster child, of course, for second impact. And we were just in Seattle. The commissioner and the NFL brass were there, and we put on, with the governor of Washington, a clinic essentially on how to get a Zach Lystedt law passed. And basically the law has three components. It is that the parents and the student athlete are educated about the symptoms of a concussion, and they sign a waiver to that effect. Any concussion that occurs, the player is out of practice or out of play, and to return, they have to be cleared by an independent provider, and that could be a trainer, a physician, somebody who's properly trained. And these are totally preventable, but the young people are the ones that are at high risk. And as I'm sure Carrie would tell you, the highest risk sport in the NCAA is women's hockey. Number 2, women's soccer. Mm-hmm. Number 3, men's football. This goes across the genders, it goes across the ages as a substantial public health problem.
Well, you know, it's an excellent question, and it's something that I feel really strongly about. As a matter of fact, I just went to I have 2 daughters, but I went to their grade school. They play, from 5th grade on, they play tackle football. And I was just watching the parents, they kept asking me questions. And so I went and spoke to the parents club of all the football players, and the questions were just, some were the simplest things, and others you were just astounded by what they came up with. But I think there's still so much lack of education, and I think that's really the crux of all this, is that we need to educate the parents, we need to educate the coaches at all levels, from the Pop Warner level on up. And again, you know, football obviously has the most attention, but educating parents of all student athletes, and not necessarily even an athlete. Your child could be riding a bike and fall off, so if they're not wearing a helmet. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of helmets, having sustained a concussion myself after riding without one. So the education of the sacredness of the brain, I think, is probably the most important thing. And so as we educate our parents, they know their kids better than anybody. And you know, at the college level, we like to think our athletic trainers probably are like a mom or dad away from home. I talk about just what everyone up here has talked about, to both parents and coaches and student athletes, that we need to protect the brain, we need to notice those changes. Even colleagues or teammates, you need to notice if your teammate has something that's changing in them, if they're acting funny. You know, I can't tell you how many times an athlete has come up to me and said, you need to go check on so-and-so because they're not acting right. And we would have never known had they not told us. So I think the more education we get to everyone, the better.